Our economy is fueled by dynamic workplaces where the impossible becomes possible, where individuals reach their full potential. SHRM impacts the lives of 115 million workers and their families every day. And together, we can build a world of work that works for all. That is our vision: to advocate for better policies, elevate human resources, and develop stronger managers. Still, the workplace needs work. By creating better workplaces, we are truly creating a better world. One person can cause an effect. One person in HR can challenge outdated hiring practices, champion modern benefits, advocate for pay equity, and turn jobs into careers. HR empowers others to not only dream of change, but to create it. The actions of a few affect the lives of many. Join SHRM today to cause the effect you wish to see in the workplace.
Our folks here have over 20 plus years experience. We provide two main areas: express requests, which is a compilation of all various topics.
I work in the Knowledge Advisory Service, and what I do is respond to members' questions that they have about HR issues. They can be simple or they can be complex.
You can actually save a lot of time by asking one of our advisors to do some research for you, to bounce off an idea, to find out latest current employer practices.
So one of the great benefits of the Knowledge Center is that those who use us, the members who use the Knowledge Center, retain at a much higher rate. In the Knowledge Center, we get a myriad of questions. We talk about every topic imaginable under the umbrella of human resources. Among the most popular would be the Family and Medical Leave Act, the FMLA, also the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, and questions about overtime, questions about the exemption status, questions about the salary basis. The questions go on and on. We could talk about many more of them. And if you want to do that, don't forget one of the prime benefits of being a SHRM member, the HR Knowledge Center. I'm Ruin out.
Hello and welcome to the second annual Better Workplaces Challenge Cup. I'm Guillermo Correa, Managing Director of SHRMLabs, SHRM's Workplace Innovation Lab and Venture Capital Arm. Thank you for joining us as we kick off the 2022 competition, and we're building on what we did a year ago. A very special thanks to New York City SHRM, DC SHRM, and the Pittsburgh HR Association, our co-hosts for this segment of the competition. So given the state of our workplaces in the world today, this year's competition continues to be just as timely as last year's. Remote work, the skills shortage, mental health, and the great resignation are driving the workplace to new heights of innovation. And innovation is the key reason why SHRM launched this competition. The Better Workplaces Challenge Cup is a pitch competition to find the innovators that are solving the most critical workplace challenges. Before you hear from an incredible group of startups and their solutions to these challenges, we have a guest speaker for today's event. As you listen to her presentation, if you have any questions, please submit them through the chat function and we will cover them at the end of the presentation. Also, please note that this event qualifies for 2 PDCs towards your SHRM CP and SCP certification. We will provide the code at the end of the event. But for now, please help me in welcoming to the stage Stacey Guillen, Kanarys team member in the Business Development and Sales Division, with a presentation that I think is very timely for the entire workplace right now. And it's titled Top Trends in DEI Data to Inform Talent Acquisition and Retention Strategies. So welcome to the stage, Stacey. Great to have you here, and it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Guillermo. I very much appreciate the invitation. And so today we're going to talk about top trends in DEI data to inform talent acquisition and retention strategies. And as Guillermo mentioned, we're in a very timely, special time when it comes to HR. So with that, let's kick it off. So here we have a picture of Kanarys co-founder and CEO, Mandy. And I always like to show this picture because this is exactly what we do. We bring data to DEI efforts. Data is front and center. And I love the word that we used, innovation. And so we want to reimagine DEI. We want to transform DEI with data. Not only that, but with intentionality and impact. So we're going to go on to the next to share more about that. So top trends in DEI data, it's either in the pipeline, in place, or it's coming your way. And so I want to truly focus on three areas: regulatory reporting, the second one, DEI key performance indicators with respect to DEI, so those KPIs. And then thirdly, how does DEI data affect your employer brand, specifically with talent acquisition and retention and positioning yourself to be the employer of choice? We're going to go on to the next one here is DEI data disclosure requirements. So the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission here, recently provided some amendments on what's required of companies to make human capital management, the ACM disclosures. And this happens on an annual basis, which started last year and continues to be the case. So some of the disclosure requirements here are included. One is a description of human capital resources, looking at it from a qualitative and quantitative ACM information, and also the diversity policies and measures that correspond to that company's objectives. So a lot of these disclosures, again, are in place or coming your way. So it's not only government entities that are looking at this, but also private companies, as this large private investment bank, Goldman Sachs, also has provided some diversity requirements. They've said that Goldman Sachs will not assist any company during their initial public offering, their IPO, unless the company has a diverse board. And how do they define that? They define it by requiring that at least 2 board members be from chronically underrepresented groups. So that can look like anything from gender identity, sexual orientation, race, or ethnicity. Also, NASDAQ may be a familiar company here where they list a public exchange where they list companies. They've also provided some requirements around board diversity. So what that looks like is that they required listed companies to also publicly disclose diversity statistics. Again, the power of the data regarding their board of directors. And then also they're requiring most companies to have, or even explain if they don't have, at least 2 diverse directors. And so how are they defining that? They're looking at as one who self-identifies as a female, and then one who self-identifies as either an underrepresented minority or LGBTQA. So we're seeing a lot of focus on the director level when it comes to these companies and the requirements here. So now we have California, right? California, and just to give you some background information, under the Obama administration, there was a set rule there with the EO1 where we're looking at race, gender, ethnicity, looking at the numbers under those categories. And also under the Obama administration, there was a component number 2 that was introduced, which collects pay data. However, under the Trump administration, that was halted. So it has also been insinuated that under the Biden administration, there's going to be an increased interest in looking at that pay data and interest. But more to come, and we'll see that coming. However, in the meantime, I did want to point out what the state of California is doing. This started last year. They have a new portal, and in fact, it's open as we speak, where they are capturing any California employer has a new pay data reporting where any covered employee must submit their data. And in fact, they already did this last year where they submitted their first set of data March 31st, and now they are going to start collecting 2021 pay data that's due shortly, pretty soon, April 1st, 2022. Now, this law also applies to any private California employer with 100 or more employees. So given, as Guillermo mentioned, given the remote workforce that we're in, you don't have to necessarily be headquartered in California. If you have just one employee that lives in California, you're on the hook for this new requirement where you have to provide the new pay data. So again, whether it's full-time, part-time, temporary, remote employee, if there's one employee, at least one employee in California, and you have over 100 employees, you're on the hook to be in compliance with this requirement. Did want to point that out. In addition to that, employers in California must report the following: the number of employees by race, ethnicity, and sex in 10 specific job categories, and also specific by pay bands. Thirdly, the total number of hours worked by each employee, inclusive of any paid time off. So as you can tell, these disclosure requirements are getting pretty, focused on DEI data, and California being in the forefront of it. Okay, so we already dig deep on the regulatory aspect and the requirements. I want us to now switch gears and focus on the key performance indicators with respect to DEI, so KPIs here. And we've noticed that there's a trend in creating a system, a mechanism for evaluating performance of all employees, having an objective criteria so the employee knows where they are, where they can go, without being judged, right? So it's a very objective way to create a system for performance. The second one here is holding leadership accountable, right? A lot of companies are seeing diversity, equity, inclusion as a business imperative, and they're tying that to money, to dollars, bonuses, promotions. And so holding that leadership accountable to hitting those DEI KPIs are very important. In fact, I just recently read that Salesforce became one of the trailblazers in tying leadership, promotion, and bonus and pay and compensation to hitting those DEI KPIs. And then lastly is establishing cultural competencies, right? All of those people managers, those in leadership, understanding those cultural competencies and how we can drive DEI and ensuring that everyone is competent from a culture perspective. So again, it won't surprise me that more companies like Salesforce will hold the whole workforce accountable, but more importantly, their leadership to make sure that they're driving the needle or driving DEI to the workforce. Okay, so now what I like to focus on too is trends, right? How does DEI data affect your employer brand, your story behind that brand? And so we were noticing a trend in younger generations, specifically in the talent acquisition arm. And we see here that our young generation, Gen Zers, 76% of them said that they feel diversity and inclusion is a very important topic for brands to address. So as we look at these prospective employees, we're seeing that the younger generation is truly valuing how the employer is showing up from a DEI perspective. Now, compared to our other generations, 72% of millennials feel that DEI is important, and it decreases as the generations get older, with 63% of Gen Xers and 46% of baby boomers. So specifically, what does that tell us? It tells us that there's a change in attitude about DEI, knowing that as organizations want to attract prospective candidates that are in that young generation, they're now expecting a detailed report or something that's publicly placed to vet the organization to make sure that there is a good fit, that they're good for them. And we see that now with Citigroup, MasterCard. I mean, we can name here Starbucks, BNY Mellon, Adobe, that are truly disclosing that media pay gap data. Also, from a talent retention standpoint, we want to make sure that there's a reason for them to stay. So I just want to pause here a little bit and share with you all that as we're speaking, Kanarys, we've noticed that a lot of organizations are doing diversity, but they're shifting their gears and now focusing a lot on the letter I and the letter E. I for inclusion, to make sure that their employees feel like there's a sense of belonging, a sense of community, and then equity, to make sure that policies, procedures, pay practices, the employee life cycle, they're set up that they're all equitable. So with that, we want to make sure that the employees feel that they could bring their authentic selves to work, that they truly are seen and that there's a reason to stay. And so what we always encourage everyone here is to launch a self-ID, to truly get a state of the union, a census of your workforce through intersectionality ways, to see beyond gender, race, looking at parenthood, LGBTQ status, military status, disability, looking at a way to get that census of the workforce and see where those gaps are so that you can truly support your employees. We often find that some company partners, they say, okay, well, I'll do some programming and support groups for women, but it may not be applicable for women of color. So we're very, very conscious and encouraged that the self-ID campaign is helpful in seeing those gaps and opportunities in specific communities within the workforce. Okay, we're gonna go on to the next one here. And of course, I know this presentation was short and sweet and we can provide way more trends here, but we always tell our company partners, progress is not perfect. There's no perfection in this. DEI is not one and done. It's a journey. It's not a one-stop, it's not a one and done. It does take time. So anything that you do now is demonstrating a willingness and progress to changing the systems, to seeing that transformation. And of course, the power of data, right? If we're not measuring, we can't see that change. So you can't change what you don't measure. And that's why it's important to see the data in its intentionality, the impact of the data, and making sure that we look at those trends that are coming forward. So with that, I'm going to just thank you all for the time. And of course, you can reach me at Stacey at Kanarys if there's any questions, but thank you again for the time and opportunity. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stacey, for your sweet and quick presentation, right to get to the point. I loved it. By the way, I'm not surprised what you said about Salesforce being, the innovator or the leader when it comes to DEI. I mean, Mark Benioff, if there's somebody who knows how to lead DEI, it's got to be Mark Benioff. No questions about it. Just a couple of questions here. So, what do you think is the current state of the union on, as far as DEI is concerned in the workplace? I mean, we've been talking about it for a while, right? I think that it's how should I put it? It's well known that the companies that support DEI actually perform better. So it's no longer about even doing it just because you want to do it because it's the right thing to do, right? I mean, it makes business sense. So what do you think is the state of the union in regards to that?
And you're right, Guillermo, great question. DEI is no longer a nice to have, right? It is a business imperative to ensure that the company is moving in the direction, attracting talent, retaining the talent. So when you say, or the question is, what is the state of the union in DEI? What we've noticed is, again, that, and I alluded to this before, that a lot of organizations are truly focusing on that inclusion component and equity. So how do we do that? How do we quantify? And secondly, how do we benchmark? That's been what's happening right now with the trend. Benchmarking internally, externally, making sure that you're performing in the right direction, benchmarking against all of the industries or your peers, competitors. So looking at that data. And then on top of that, is also ensuring that you're getting the employees' perceptions, right? Their lived work experiences, their sentiments, getting a comprehensive overview of that state of the union in the organization so that you can apply applicable solutions. Because employees, I can tell you that they are more than happy to truly share their story in an anonymous manner if and only if they see action. What is the action with that data? So I would say that would be the biggest one for the state of the union of DEI.
Got it. And one last question here, and then we'll let you go. We know you're a busy person here. So DEI is clearly nuanced and difficult work, right? So where does it make sense for an organization to start?
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer for that. But what we always encourage our organizations to look at is from the top, right? Leadership. So I would say alignment is the first one when it comes to beginning or embarking in this DEI journey, is ensuring that your leadership is truly aligned, that there is that organizational capacity to truly understand, to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly from from your employees, or looking at your systems, policies, procedures, but ensuring that leadership is held accountable and that everyone is in it together to move forward. The second thing I would say is assessing your employees. In addition to having the buy-in from the leadership, is looking at a comprehensive approach of your systems, and also in tandem looking at the employee sentiment. That would be the second part. And then thirdly is making sure that you personally are educating yourself, understanding the vocabulary. Again, these are just starting points to move the needle forward. And then fourth is that we understand that a lot of organizations may not have the capacity or the financial or the budget, but bringing on an expert, an extension of your team, to truly help you. Because we know that DEI is not easy and it's not a one and done thing, but it is a journey, right? So we have to benchmark and measure the impact over time. But I would say those 4 starting points would be the most relevant and applicable now.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. Well, Stacey, it was a fantastic pleasure having you here with us, and we hope you can join us, in some of our future events. So thank you very much, and have a great evening. All right.
Thank you so much. Take care.
See you. Excellent. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed that informative session, and that you were able to get some insights out of what Stacey presented. But now it's time to move on to the pitch competition, which is, the main reason why all of you came. So let's get ready to rumble. As mentioned at the beginning, the Better Workplaces Challenge Cup is a pitch competition to find the innovators that are solving the most critical workplace challenges. And I think, HR professionals that are out there, you're well aware of what those challenges are. This year, we're actually taking the competition global. And so we're actually going to have competition rounds in the US, Europe, Latin America, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. The first segment of this competition is actually one of 10 that we're doing as first round events, in which the top two companies are going to be advancing to the 2 semifinal rounds. And then from the semifinal rounds, the top 2 companies from each semifinal round will advance to the finals, which will be held again at SHRM's annual conference and exposition, the largest gathering of HR professionals. This year, the event's going to be happening in New Orleans, and we hope that you're able to join us. So today, you're going to be hearing from 7 very exciting startups, and each company is going to be providing a 3-minute pitch. And afterwards, they will have a 3 question and answer session with our judges. So just to tell you very quickly about the criteria that these startups are going to be judged on. Number 1, is this a business that will be able to grow to positively affect the lives and work of millions of employees? Number 2, is this a business that will create better workplaces where employers and employees thrive together? Because you do have to have a balance out there in the workplace. And then finally, number 3, you're part of SHRM. So is this a business that will provide value to SHRM members and their companies by helping HR professionals become more efficient and strategic? Once the pitches are completed, the judges will deliberate and choose the top 2 companies that will move on to the semifinals. Okay. But for now, please help me in welcoming our judges for today. So first up, we have Ashley Sager, Human Resources Director at BAB Inc. Hello, Ashley. Thank you for joining us. Next, we have Kim Pascarella, VP of Employee Experience at Leading Age. And then finally, last but not least, Tiffany Baker, Strategic Market Development Executive at UKG and CEO of 2 Heads Up. Welcome to the stage, judges, and thank you for joining us. So let's go ahead and get started here, and let's welcome our first participant, Thrivacy.
We're on a mission at Thrivacy to create better work environments for today and tomorrow, where employers and employees thrive through privacy together. Beyond just identity authentication, we are an identity verification company protecting personal privacy so people can thrive in the world with the freedom we all deserve. Privacy positively impacts employees' lives as a digital identity and privacy wallet for daily use built on decentralized technology. Privacy lets employees own and control their verifiable credentials and other personally identifiable information safe from hackers and thieves. Personal identity information goes well beyond just an ID card. It includes all these types of credentials and attributes that can be verified and converted into immutable records to hold in your wallet. As the issuer of credentials generates them as verifiable digital assets, they are given to the individual to hold in their privacy wallet. As they share these verifiable credentials with employers and professional associations, the proof of the credential is not at the issuer's central database, but instead on a distributed and decentralized ledger registry. This gives the person absolute control over their information while providing trust for the receiver as an immutable and unchangeable record. For example, Erica is the holder of a privacy wallet. She recently graduated from the University of South Carolina. Erica has requested the university provide her degree as a verifiable credential she can hold in a privacy wallet. The university verifies her degree, and that fact is converted into a verifiable credential with proof placed on the Hyperledger blockchain by Privacy. Then, when Erica applies for a job, the employer asks consent to verify her education. Instead of allowing a third-party company hired by the employer to provide the trust of proof, Erica sends the credential to the employer, who scans the QR code, which pings the blockchain and provides the proof and immutability of the record so the employer can trust the information is true. We can even do the same thing with the SHRM credentials for members. From a utility standpoint in the workforce space, we are an early member of the worldwide cooperative called the Velocity Network Foundation, building the Internet of Careers. And we understand that there are already conversations ongoing between SHRM and Velocity to pilot a demonstration. We could be an important component of that pilot as an independent wallet enabling SHRM members to hold and control their SHRM credentials. Hello, my name is Gordon Jones, and I'm co-founder and CEO with Erica Barnett, Seth McGaw, and Nicole Spircali, who is an SHRM SCP. We also have several employees and a full bench of advisors and consultants to support our venture. Again, we're on a mission to create better work environments for employers and employees around the world to thrive through privacy together.
All right, excellent. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Jones. And
thank you.
Let's go ahead and get started here. Ashley, how about we go first to you for the first question?
Sure. Hi, Dr. Gordon. Thank you for joining us. And, as a longtime HR professional, I know that keeping people's information private is so important, and keeping it secure for that matter. As you are rolling this out across the United States and the world, where is your focus? Is it getting it to the professionals of the world, or is it getting it to the employees? Like, how are you driving this out into the world, and why did you choose that path?
So we're really serving all three of the entities that you saw in the flywheel: the issuers, the holders, and also the verifiers or the receivers. But our go-to-market strategy is within the employer space, but we're not building a third-party company to verify credentials for the employer. The way our model works is the employer requests the candidate for this information. If the candidate doesn't already have it in a verifiable credential format, then the employer can then say, hey, go check out Privacy. They're going to be able to provide you with a wallet that you can hold all these credentials in that are immutable, and we accept it in this format. And then what we're going to do is then reach out, or you're going to provide that information. You're going to get consent from the candidate or the employee if you're doing this with your current employees. And then through consent, they're going to say, okay, well, please verify these credentials. We're going to go out and do that, currently in the traditional model of doing that. But then we convert that into a verifiable credential. We put that in the candidate's wallet, and then the wallet the candidate provides that information to you directly from their wallet. We call this peer-to-peer. And because this is a mutable record that with the proof on blockchain, then you'll be able to just use a QR code to verify. You're basically pinging the blockchain for that proof to verify this credential is accurate, up to date, and mutable. In other words, the candidate themselves didn't change that. So everything we're doing is really orienting to the individual. This is a wallet that individuals will be able to use for all of daily life, not just for employment or HR. They'll be able to use it throughout their life.
All right, excellent.
Awesome.
Next question over to Kim.
Thank you. And I think you sort of addressed this, but I just want to confirm, how widespread is the ability for the issuers to generate the verifiable credentials?
So we are very early. First of all, the community that's building this and adopting this worldwide includes governments, institutions, and individuals, but also through the Velocity Network Foundation that I talked about. This is an organization made up of employers and companies that serve human resources that represent about 30% of the worldwide corporate employee base. So they're just now starting to get exposed to this and bring it in-house. One of the leaders here in the United States is HCA, the hospital organization that's got about 382,000 employees. They're already testing this now. So it'll be, or as organizations bring this in and to be able to accept these verifiable credentials. And then we're also working with universities, like we're in my class at the University of South Carolina that I'm teaching data, privacy, blockchain, and self-sovereign identity. They'll be able to issue these college degrees as verifiable credentials and give them to their graduates, and then their graduates be able to use this.
Thank you.
All right, and last question over to Tiffany.
Hi, Dr. Gordon Jones, right? I can't
Yes,
see very
Gordon.
well. Thank you.
Just call me Gordon.
You had a great presentation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for putting so much thought into it. I have two questions, really. For some employers that may want to keep an arm's length distance between themselves and the candidate and not have that communication, have you thought about the opportunity for the employer themselves to have this and communicate directly with your blockchain about employees? That way they're not crossing that threshold, and for sure the employers are going to see a lot more candidates come through the door than that candidate may need to use the credentials, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what we envision is and really how this all came about was just envision LinkedIn and all of the credentials and attributes that you list on your LinkedIn profile is already verified and turned into a mutable record, so that when you or they submit that data from LinkedIn into your recruiting application, all of that information has already been verified and you can trust it. So now you don't even have to go out and hire a company to perform that process. The other thing is when they submit it, if they use their Thrivacy wallet and they're submitting the information to you, this is called peer-to-peer, but it could be a request. We can work it out to where it is a request that maybe comes through Thrivacy. I mean, we can talk about that. But the whole reason we're doing this is to remove the middleman and create peer-to-peer relationships. And so there are some compliance things that I'm sure we'll have to struggle with from a policy standpoint in order to satisfy those kind of requests. But this is all new, and it's evolving, so we're definitely open to those conversations.
And one more question, if I may. You mentioned one of the beta testers, AHA, doing something along these lines with their existing employees. What is the opportunity for credential verification on recertification requirements, such as CPAs have to do continuing ed, or doctors have to do a certain amount of surgery hours? Is that an opportunity as well?
Yes. So my doctorate's in health administration, so I know the provider credentialing world fairly well. But it also happens the same thing with your professional association, where you have certifications that have been people have earned. We can turn those into verifiable credentials as well. But that also includes work history. I mean, really everything you saw up there on the PII slide, all of those data points can be converted into these verifiable credentials that are under control of the individual through their wallet. And that's really what the whole world is going to. Even governments around the world are adopting these open standards that are created through the Linux Foundation and the W3C in order to give their citizens control over their identity information without the government being able to see everything.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Jones. And while the judges write down some notes, how can attendees find out more about Thrivacy?
Oh, well, you can certainly find us on LinkedIn. We have a Thrivacy page. You can search me, Dr. Gordon Jones, or any of our other team members. And then thrivacy.io is our website. So certainly can reach out to us there.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here tonight. All right, let's move on to our second participant. Next up, we have Arbery.
Hi, I am Pedro, co-founder of Arbery. Childcare is a persistent workforce crisis that has only been aggravated by the pandemic. Childcare is so expensive that parents quit working to take care of their children. At the same time, most companies cannot afford childcare benefits, despite of the $51 billion in tax incentives available to employers only that are not being used. So we founded Arbery to transform this reality. About 20 years ago, the federal government introduced the employer-provided childcare tax credit to encourage companies to sponsor childcare. In the real world, however, these tax credits have remained constrained to very few employers who can offer on-site childcare. Our solution enables companies of any size and footprint to efficiently access these tax credits. By doing so, we are unlocking a new employee benefit market worth $8 billion. We approach childcare affordability from a fintech perspective. We've built a payments platform designed for tax credit compliance that enables employers to offer childcare benefits at no additional cost. Parents get additional dollars, employers gain a budget-friendly instrument for talent retention, and our technology assures the benefit program is compliant with the tax code. Companies have two ways to set up the benefit. First, a stipend program, where the company fully funds the program, having a residual increment cost. Second, a trade-in program where parents participate, exchanging a small fraction of their salary for a much higher value childcare benefit. This program has a net zero cost for employers. When we look at the other childcare benefit options, we are the only player providing programs with savings for employers. Traditional childcare operators often offer discount programs to large employers. And more recently, tech-enabled businesses have emerged with curated services. In either case, the contribution to the root cause, which is affordability, is limited, saving families anywhere between 5 and 15% on childcare expenses. Due to the way our platform is designed, we save parents up to 40% and companies up to 100%. That's huge. So the pandemic has shown that the lack of childcare deeply affects companies. Furthermore, New York has just doubled the state employer-sponsored childcare tax credit, making it a no-brainer for businesses in the state. Offering childcare benefits has become unavoidable. We do have the technology, and we are uniquely positioned to grow this new benefit category. And you know what's best? For no additional cost to employers. So thank you very much, and let me now open for questions.
All right, excellent. Excellent presentation, Pedro. Welcome to the stage. And for this round, Kim, you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Pedro. So for the employer federal tax benefit, is that recouped only sort of after the parent files their tax return? How does the employer realize their net zero?
Yeah, that's a great question. So these employers calls for childcare tax credit. Those are tax credits for the employer. So as long as the employer can prove that they paid for childcare services provided to a working parent's son or daughter, then the employer will be able to claim those tax credits at the federal and at the state level when available. So it's really a tax credit for employers that only employers that have been offering on-site childcare have been able to use, just because when you're subsidizing childcare expense at any childcare center, then the company would need to take care of cutting checks directly to each of those providers, making sure that they are keeping track of that, so they have everything that's needed to be able to apply to claim those tax credits. What our platform does is make all that process pretty simple. because the whole technology takes over all the complexity of such program.
Thank you.
Next question over to Tiffany.
Hi, Pedro. Since this is an employer benefit, then would it have zero impact on a parent's ability to put away money in a pre-tax dependent care FSA? Then they would still be able to contribute to that.
Yeah, the companies can build like those two, the dependent care FSA and our service to work in a complementary way, which would increase even further like the affordability of childcare programs for employees. The only thing that must be taken into consideration is that the whole contribution for one single parent, for one single family, cannot go beyond like $5,000. If it goes beyond $5,000, then payroll taxes will incur. So companies can do that, but most of companies that we've been working with, they stay below the $5,000 per year.
And last question over to Ashley.
Hi, Pedro. This is something I hope you bring to Pennsylvania very soon as a working parent. So I saw that there are a list of 120,000 providers that would be a part of this program. If it would come about that, you know, an employee says my provider's not on this list, but I need to stick with this daycare, is there a process to add additional providers, or how does that work?
Yes, they can indicate, and what we do is we do the due diligence just to make sure that that particular provider fits with the parameters of that employer's program. So typically that they are a child care center that's a state license, meaning that any expense with that particular childcare provider will be qualified childcare expenses per IRS definition, and then we can bring them on board on the platform. Bringing them on board is pretty simple. Basically, what we need is the bank account that we need to make the payments to. All the payments are made like through an ACH transfer, and we can also support like cash payments as well, like in exception cases.
All right, great. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pedro. And while the judges write down some notes, how can attendees find out more about Arbery?
Sure. So you can find more about Arbery on our website, which is arbery.com. You can find more about us also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. There's plenty of information there about like the programs that we're doing, and we are happy to talk with any of you, like to provide a particular study for any of your companies. Please just get in touch with us. My personal email is pedro@arbery.com. You can also get in touch with us like through info@arbery.com, and one of our team members will get back to you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Pedro. All right, let's move on to our third participant, Shamrock.
Hello, my name is Sheffy Robinson, and today we'll be introducing you to Shamrock. But first, a little bit of story time. Meet her. Trevor is a junior in high school, aspires to be a mechanical engineer, but he's struggling to really connect with what it means for him in his future. Trevor is my son, and at some point we had to fight with the school board to have them create a calculus class to make sure he'd be successful as an engineer as he goes to college. This got me to looking at the education to industry that is quite vast at $2.2 trillion in lost GDP over the last decade, because about 30% of students are unprepared to work in the workforce. Myself, as a software engineer and a clinical sociologist, I gathered a team of tech professionals and professional and industrial organizational psychology to produce a workforce development platform to help middle school and high school students figure out the next phase of their post-secondary journey, connect with resources and services to help them, and connect with business for internship opportunities. Shamrock seeks to be the conduit to next education and bring forward to what industries are needing. This is a $300 billion industry, and we are targeting small to medium business that's a little over $7 billion in the U.S. Our model is a subscription-based model, and we're partnering and businesses and micro internships, providing workforce analytic data from our machine learning models, and create talent pipelines for businesses that apply. Overall, we look at workforce development as an ecosystem, and we want to make sure we're providing best ROI so that we create the #1 top talent network for hiring for business as we go into the next generation worse. Our go-to-market strategy is based around providing the platform to district schools and students for free to gain our user base, while we engage small to medium business internships and use the platform to manage workforce development programs from entities. across our competitive landscape, we cover the gambit of the process that we're bringing together all facets of workforce development for one cohesive platform in which we gain data to make human resources a better opportunity for businesses and entering certain careers. Right now, we are in live beta stage, in which we will go beta in April with a little over almost $1,000 in revenue and a little under 100 students on the platform. Our goal right now is to raise $8,000 in a pre-seed round. We can leverage those funds to gain active users with 1.6 million ARR for businesses. Overall, our goal is to build better talent pipelines to give students more opportunities and better work environments. Thank you.
All right, we're back live, and it appears that there were some issues with the sound there at the end with the video, so apologies for that. Sheffy, welcome to the stage, and for this round, Tiffany, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Sure. Sheffy, I love what you're doing here. There is such a gap. I think everybody sets out with the best of intentions to accomplish a goal, and somewhere along the way, we kind of fit that niche, and little pieces along the way need that bridge, and I can definitely see where that fits here. So thank you for such a wonderful idea. The only question I think I had were, are there any industries that wouldn't be a fit for this type of program for children trying to grow into their industry, and why would that industry not be a fit?
Sure. So far, we haven't seen an industry that would not have some sort of need. Now, there are, of course, some nuances in, say, medical and anything dealing with heavy machinery where students would not be able to do an internship that would require them to do these actual tasks. But that doesn't mean they can't provide support services. It could be, even in the medical field, it could be some research. It could be reaching out to help set up a symposium. It can be lots of different things. So the actual internships that students go into is not necessarily industry specific, so much as it is career specific. So a hospital may still need a web developer. They may still need someone to do some additional marketing assistance for them. So that's kind of how we pattern it to make sure there are opportunities where students can still get a window of what's happening. And we curate that as much as possible so businesses don't have to worry about some of the risk factors.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Next question over to Ashley.
Hi, Sheffy. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for joining us today. So my question is, so let's say a student is enrolled in a school where this program is in place. Maybe they move, they graduate, they go on to college. Will they still have access to these tools, whether they have to pay their own subscription, or how would that work?
Absolutely. We have a process called the student profile. It is essentially a combination of, say, an Upwork profile with a LinkedIn profile that shows all the activity the student has done on the platform. The collegiate students can pay like a yearly subscription just to keep that profile active. And it's actually pretty nominal. It's like $40 for the year, so that someone can look back and see what has been the pathway to that career path for them, and also get a window into what projects they've worked on in the past. So yes, they will continue to have access to that information. At the heart of what we do, we are a data company, so we are continually compiling that information. So it'll never be a point where it's not accessible.
Very good. Thank you so much for answering my question.
And last question over to you, Kim.
Hi, Sheffy. Thank you for that presentation. Sort of to piggyback a little bit off Tiffany's question, I'm curious, are you targeting students in a certain career field like STEM? Are you trying to concentrate your efforts on finding internships for students that are interested in STEM careers, or is it much broader than that?
It is much broader than that. The process of the platform is based around the 4 E's, in which we're trying to help students figure out their post-secondary journey, whether that is going off to college next, with enrollment, enlistment if they're joining the military, employment if they're looking at trades or going straight into a workforce with a job that does not require a degree, or entrepreneurship if they're looking at starting their own company within that particular career path. So it's more focused around trying to get them to figure out what the next step looks like as succinctly as possible so that they're much more prepared to enter the workforce. One thing we're seeing quite frequently is the entry-level position that requires a degree and 3 years of experience. Well, for a lot of college students, that's just not happening. But how much more pivotal could a student be if they started that internship at 16 and now they have a college degree? So they're entering the workforce with 6 years of experience, likely, and they have a degree with that. So it's very much based around what the student feels is going to be the best path for them. And then we're aligning that with where businesses have the most need. So while that can be a STEM focus in some areas where computer science is being more accessible, we're finding that your trades are actually wanting this product a lot more. Your automotive technicians, your plumbers, those are the folks that are really like beating down our door, like, hey, we want students to work with us. So we definitely follow high growth pathways as far as what careers are growing the most to make sure that this is long-term sustainable for the student, but we don't necessarily follow any type of path as far as what industries we're targeting.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sheffy. And while the judges write down some notes, how can attendees find out more about Shamrock?
Sure. You can reach us online at shamrock.com. That's Shamrock with no O. A leprechaun stole our O and won't give it back. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Sheffy Robinson, or Shamrock there as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much for being here. All right, let's move on to our fourth participant, Onwards HR.
Have you ever made a $2.7 million mistake? Most likely the answer is no, and we plan to keep it that way. My name is Sarah Roadhorse, co-founder and CEO of Onwards HR, a risk mitigation platform that simplifies separations in compliance with corporate policies and employment laws. Today, most companies use email, Word, and Excel to manage workforce reductions, which leaves room for errors, including severance overpayments, bias, wrongful termination lawsuits, and, go figure, a $2.7 million mistake. And if we've learned anything from the Better.com fiasco, it is that experiences matter. And this isn't a small problem. There are 169 million involuntary separations that occur annually across the globe. And each country has its own statutory requirements, which adds complexity. This complexity makes the process resource intensive with long processing timelines. And in the world of termination, speed matters. The longer the timeline, the more the company will pay in payroll costs. My co-founder Janice and I met over 20 years ago and have spent our entire careers launching B2B SaaS applications in the HR industry. And our mission is to make separations better for employers and employees. Onwards HR simplifies separations in compliance with corporate policies and employment laws. We mitigate risk, reduce costs, and improve equity. Core to our patent-pending technology is a rules engine that stores our customers' corporate policies and employment laws. All of our products sit on top of that rules engine. Our solutions make it easy for HR to calculate severance and generate severance packages, offboard employees, model various scenarios and stack rank employees, mitigate risk with adverse impact and warn analysis, and prevent severance overpayments. The result is significant value to our customers, one of which saved $4 million using our platform. Our market opportunity is enormous. We are currently focused on U.S. enterprise businesses, which is a $1.3 billion market, and are already working with global companies. Our go-to-market strategy is simple. We offer severance automation products at a very low cost. As our customers realize the value of our solution, they can add functionality and expand usage. We have significant traction. Last year, we won HR Tech's Pitch Fest. All of our customers have renewed. 2 prospects are in contract and negotiations, and we have $1 million in our sales pipeline. Onwards HR simplifies separations because there is a better way to say goodbye.
All right, great presentation, Sarah, and welcome to the stage. Let's go back to Ashley. How about you get us started with this round?
All right. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining us. Hi. Well, this is definitely a topic, offboarding anybody is definitely a topic of sadness sometimes whenever we have to say goodbye to people, and handled correctly, it definitely can be better for that employee as well as the employer. So like, what inspired you to get in this area of HR when there's so many like different, avenues you could go? What inspired you to impact this particular portion of what we do?
Well, there's definitely a lot happier topics, I would say, out there. But, personally, I've been part of a layoff, family members part of a layoff. Everyone we say has a separation story, and rarely are they very good. We did not start out in this space. We actually started with an online benefit enrollment platform. And when we were out there selling our platform to our first customer, they said, you know what, that's great. I have one of those, but do you know of a severance automation solution out there? Because we are paying the wrong people and we're paying the wrong amounts and we can't get our heads over it. And we are spending countless hours just making sure it's correct. And then there's someone else checking behind it and so on and so forth. And it ended up really the technology we had built was around calculations because it's calculating, amounts for health insurance and doing an application there. We ended up being able to take our technology, apply it to the separation automation space, and our customers love it. And then as we started talking to more and more folks, they're like, no, this is a problem everywhere. Even at the largest, we're talking to Fortune 500 companies right now, and they use Word, email, and Excel to manage this process. So it's really a gap out there. And, just having been part of it in the past before, it can be better for obviously the employees. Like if they have a severance mistake, they just lost their job. Like now there's something happening there. It's just really kind of a nightmare. But then in parallel to that, we're talking to HR folks and they're like, my job is to manage separations. Like that's my job. Can you please make it better for me? So, we just really think that there's an opportunity on both sides.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Next question over to Kim.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you. I've really enjoyed this presentation a lot. And I have so many questions, but I'll reserve it.
We can follow up afterwards. Feel free.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask, I guess, about the compliance and adverse impact dashboard. It looks at age and gender, ethnicity, and disability. Is there an opportunity to build in vet status into that is one, but in addition to that, if you can just shed a little bit of light into sort of what the algorithm is looking at. Is it just looking at sort of the current population of the employer, or is it looking at to compare with other benchmark data sources, like say the Department of Labor and Statistics?
Sure, great question. So at this point, it is doing the 4FIS rule and the Fisher Exact rule against their current data. So taking a look at those that are considered and those that are impacted. But we are advancing that. So it is an area that's important. That's really the focus in the US. Elsewhere, we're actually working with global companies, and every country has its own kind of statutory requirements that they need to comply with. So we're continuously investing in the different analytics approach and want to bring in the benchmarks as part of our roadmap.
Okay. And last question over to you, Tiffany.
Yeah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
So I'm curious, what is the positioning that you see Onwards taking in the marketplace to combat the client that would say, well, I'll just call my labor attorney? Or what guarantees will you make? Is there any sort of EPLI following you to cover the practices that you're recommending and strategies that your solution is taking, as opposed to them having that attorney to fall back on?
Sure, great question. I will tell you, we are talking with attorneys, right? So guess what? They don't have technology to automate this either. Had a conversation with a law firm, and they were helping a company with a very large reduction in force. And guess what? They had done all of their work. They did their calculations. They use Word, email, and Excel as well. And then guess what? At the last minute, they had a date change. Everything pushed back 2 weeks. And they informed us that they had attorneys working all weekend to update all of those calculations, and then every single agreement had to change and be touched. And guess who got charged for that bill? The client. So it is one of those things that we feel this is a universal problem. We do not want to compete with law firms. We see them as partners. But when it's automated, when it's a corporate policy internally, we're just automating that and making it more efficient. We are not attorneys. We are not providing advice. We are really automating a function of and making sure it's consistently applied.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sarah. And just as with the other startups, while the judges take down some notes, how can attendees find out more about Onwards HR?
You can find us, just like everybody else, on LinkedIn. Our website is onwardshr.com. You could contact me directly at sarah@onwardshr.com, and would love to talk to you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, let's bring up our fifth participant, WorkDrive.
Hi, my name is Tracy Parsons, and I'm the CEO of WorkDrive, an internal mobility platform that makes it easy for your best people to stay. In my 20-year career in talent, I have had the opportunity to work at some amazing organizations. And every time I wanted to move internally, I was told, we have a plan for you. And every single time, I left. Because it wasn't my plan. I didn't even have a voice in the plan. And the truth is, I really would have rather stayed. I just didn't know how. According to LinkedIn, 94% of people would rather stay at their company if we invested in them. And 69% of TA professionals believe that internal mobility accelerates new hire productivity. Yet our own data shows us that employees are 5 times less likely to convert on the internal job board. Why are we getting this wrong? Well, the reality is we all know those talent hoarding managers. In fact, a recent study showed that 70% of TA professionals view managers as a barrier to mobility. The second issue is, frankly, we all have biases. We're elevating favorites, people with the most face time, not necessarily the best skills for the job. According to a Glassdoor survey, 61% of U.S. employees witnessed or experienced bias at work. And finally, we've always built programs to serve the organization, not the employee. Well, WorkDrive changes all that. With WorkDrive, your employees can be set up and matched to new internal jobs in minutes. And they can apply for those jobs with 1 or 2 clicks. Because we already know them, there are no more ATS hoops to jump through. And your talent is anonymously matched to recruiters' open recs to be tapped for new opportunities. WorkDrive brings real internal equity to internal mobility. We believe that WorkDrive is suitable for any employer more than 500 people. Our CTO has more than 20 years experience, and our board is stellar. Torrin Ellis, Jess Von Bank, Matt Charney, and Sarah White. We currently have 25,000 employees across the globe actively managing their own careers, and it's sticky. They're logging in every 9 days to see new matches and update their skills. We have $115,000 in ARR, and we're closing in on a $3 million pipeline. We really do believe we've made it easy for your best people to stay with our platform. Thank you so much for your time. I'd love to hear your questions.
All right. Excellent presentation, Tracy, and welcome to the stage. So for this round, Kim, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Yes, thank you, Tracy. So when the recruiter sees that there's a match for an open position, is it possible for them to see the name and the details of the matched candidate, or do they have to wait for the employee to sort of opt into the position?
That's correct. They don't see their identity until they've opted in or placed on the rec.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
All right, next question over to Tiffany.
Hi, Tracy. What are the safeguards that are in place in the solution to keep candidates potentially internally going rogue and saying, I've been here 4 months, I'm qualified to be, the CFO now, or I'd like to continue to build this skill set, and potentially catch managers off guard that aren't ready to yet transition their employees to another role?
Yeah, so a couple things. There's a skill validation and a skill advocacy component to it that I wasn't able to show in the demo. So we're asking people to find advocates within the companies for their skills. We don't match people. It's not an open search, it's a match. So if they really are fraudulently adding skills and then applying to that job, they're going to get ditched when they get on the rec anyway. So the safeguard is that they are eventually exposed, their identity is exposed, and they're going to be dispositioned like any unqualified candidate.
Thank you.
Okay. And last but not least, Ashley, over to you.
Hi, Tracy. Thanks for joining us. I totally understand about, individuals wanting to move around within an organization. And sometimes there's a fear that if there is, interest to leave their team, that, it might cause their manager to treat them in a different way moving forward, or treat them as less than. So how do you position this when you go into organizations so that the managers find this to be a tool for matching for new talent rather than something seen as like stealing away their employees?
Well, we kind of address that head on, Ashley, because if somebody's looking internally, they're looking externally too. And your opportunity is to keep them or let them go. And with the data that we're seeing, people would much rather stay. And it's an epic cost savings to retain this talent. Our initial customer went to market during the troop drawdown in Afghanistan, and they were about to have to transition 2,700 employees off contract that were revenue producing contract people out of Afghanistan. And they set a goal of like, well, could we convert 20% of these people to other contracts within the company using WorkDrive? And they not only got the 20%, they actually achieved a 40% conversion, 43% conversion rate on those people. So they ended up saving 1,100 people in the organization that would have left would have been no longer revenue producing. So the system paid for itself within its soft launch. And yeah, there are managers who constantly push back on this. Well, you're poaching my talent. I'm like, they're being poached on LinkedIn right now.
Mm-hmm.
Keep their institutional knowledge with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. And once again, while the judges write down some notes, how can attendees find out more about WorkDrive?
Absolutely. Well, I have an amazing co-founder who's going to copy and paste a bunch of links in the chat for everybody. But our website is www.workdrive.com, WorkDrive with a Q. We have a LinkedIn page. You can find me on Twitter at @tparsons, also on LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me personally and send me an email, it's Tracy with an E at workdrivewithaq.com. We got a lot of extra letters.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to our sixth participant, Truvalop.
My name is Lisa First Willis, career HR exec turned HR tech entrepreneur. I'm excited to introduce you to Truvalop. Our value proposition is repurposing performance management to inspire employees to stay longer and realize their full potential through continuous feedback and coaching. When I started developing the framework for the Truvalop app, the gap in the HR tech market was clear. Simply evaluating your team is not enough. It's what you do with the information once you identify the gaps and opportunities that makes all the difference. Truvalop solves for productivity, performance, and the big win, retention. As a buyer and implementer of HR tech, I know firsthand how to measure the viability of HR solutions. It comes down to two things. First, will the technology make work better for managers and employees? And second, will they actually use it? Here's how Truvalop will grow to positively affect the lives and work of millions of employees. Truvalop is flexible, adaptive, and intuitive. and it's easy to implement. We get large companies routinely up and running in 24 hours, and it's scalable. Trevelop uses data collected in the app to identify and solve real problems around manager and employee relationships and their disconnects. We're seeing over 90% utilization rates month over month and collecting hundreds of meaningful touch points. This marked increase in communication becomes a key influencer of developing underperformers and retaining top talent. Here's how we're helping create better workplaces where employers and employees thrive. With Trevelop, managers know who to celebrate, who to elevate, who needs motivation or inspiration, or maybe a little extra support or coaching. Our proprietary coaching engine delivers specific recommendations and continuously pushes insights that identify challenges, opportunities, and overall performance trends. Bottom line, it makes the process relevant and actionable for both managers and employees. That's a key differentiator for us. So many systems have been built for the manager in mind and have left employees completely in the dust. Trevelop elicits an informed, immediate response, making turnover identifiable and avoidable. This is how Trevelop provides value to SHRM members and their companies by helping HR professionals become more efficient and strategic. Trevelop provides HR leaders with visibility into current talent gaps, trends, and risks to inform their retention strategy, while at the same time empowering managers to lead and employees to learn. We're helping companies foster a culture that values growth and development, makes work better by improving manager and employee relationships, and ultimately solves for retention. Check us out at trevelop.com.
All right. Great presentation, Lisa, and welcome to the stage. And for this round, Tiffany, how about you get us started?
Sure. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. So my question is, how do you plan to compete in the market space? And twofold. A, with the ones like the culture amps that are, positioning something similar, especially High Five, trying to position something very similar, AI-driven feedback and constant touch points, but also limit the amount of apps within a day that a manager or somebody in HR might be using. So are you developing APIs to sit on top of other platforms so that this can be a seamless integration, or do you plan to be a separate app for them? And how are you going to address that with the others in the space, like the culture amps and High Fives that do integrate with other HCMs, so that this does at least feel like a single sign-on, if you will, experience?
Right. No, great question, Tiffany. Thank you for that. So interestingly enough, we've gone head-to-head with both in the last 12 months, and we've won. There's a couple of reasons for that, though, that are really, really interesting. First, our mobile-first technology is really important and relevant. So depending on the type of customer that you have, are they field operations? Are they multi-site construction? We do a lot of that. And having a mobile-first technology is really, really helpful. So that's a native mobile app. Second, really driving that manager-employee relationship is really important. I talked about that a little bit in the video, but that's definitely a key differentiator for us, where we're driving those touch points between both the manager and the employee. So that's really big for us. And that's definitely something we're seeing from a differentiation standpoint, but also from a growth and development area as well. You can collect data all day long, but if you don't have an actionable response, that's not going to matter, right? So that's where all of those growth and development resources that we were showing in the app, that's where we're really seeing a lot of traction.
Thank you.
All right. Next question over to you, Ashley.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Performance management and understanding where your managers and where your employees are so important to us, so that we can retain our talent. So as you are working with a new client and there's a setup process, of course, how do you go about making sure that you're collecting the right data for that particular organization? What's the startup process like in that way to make sure it's successful?
Sure. So it's very simple. So one of the things I said during the video, which is definitely a differentiator for us as well, is that we can get you up and running very quickly. So, oftentimes in my career, it would take a minimum of 8 weeks, 12 weeks to get somebody up and running. And we're doing it within 24 hours or 48 hours, depending on how quickly you can send the data to me. So we have a very simple spreadsheet. It's something that you can pull the data directly out of your HRIS, out of your payroll system, and it's core data. So it's going to be name, position, that type of information. And then we upload that for you. So it's a very simple process. It's just a feed.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And last but not least, Kim, over to you.
Yeah, I'm sort of going to piggyback off Ashley's question. How does so the question is, it's really twofold. How do you get the historical data if you're working with an organization that is still using pen and paper performance management type of methodology? And is the platform built on existing mentoring and coaching, a certain mentoring and coaching discipline?
So there were a couple questions in there, Kim. So from a API perspective, so if there's previous data that we need to pull in, we can. If you have paper, and if we want to, what we're trying to do is help you transition away from paper and start adopting technology, even in the field. That's where it's really important. So that's one piece of it. So if we can move to adopting technology, we're more likely to collect more touch points in the field, which is definitely important.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Lisa. And while the judges write down some notes, how can attendees find out more about TrueVelop?
So you can find us on the web. So we're at truevelop.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Facebook and all of your normal channels there.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, and let's move on to our final and seventh participant, Skylight.
I'm Inez, and I'm one of the co-founders of Skylight, where we're building a digital Sherpa for your team's health and well-being. We're facing a secondary pandemic of mental health at work. 2 in 3 managers worry that their employees are overworking, and around 60% of employees have said that their jobs are literally breaking them down. But our current approach to mental health is incomplete, especially in light of the Great Resignation. Team environments drive so much of mental health, yet there's no focus on teams as a unit of change or data. We imagine a world in which every team is empowered to own their well-being and is rewarded for it. So we've built a personalized digital Sherpa for your team's well-being based on research and machine learning. How does it work? Our Team Health Sherpa uses an iterative 3-step process that starts with measurement of the team's vitals. We use self-report and passive data, especially vocal biomarkers. We then support a team to learn through personalizable digital modules and best practice exchanges across teams. We can then encourage them to act and reflect using team-based nudges, multimedia reflections, and a gamified accountability mechanism. The long-term impacts that we've seen include both engagement and long-term metrics. We've seen high engagement and have seen change within 2 weeks time, especially in reduction of cases of severe burnout by 47% over 3 months. This has resonated with teams because we empower them to act through simple paths to action taking, a reduction in the burden of data collection by diversifying sources of data, and a gamified experience. But we also resonate with HR leaders, and that's because we can enable them to have a continuous pulse on key metrics that impact the bottom line, such as burnout. We can help them care at scale using a delegated model of action taking, and we can improve ROI, especially for spending on benefits and training, as it helps focus it. We have been selling as a SaaS business model directly into CHROs and heads of business units into their engagement and talent management budgets. We use a pricing model that they're familiar with a per employee per month basis with volume discounts and a contract that's based on a 12-month renewable contract. We are already trusted team health Sherpas and have worked extensively with established companies, and that's reflected in our traction and projections, where we've almost 3x'd our revenue in 2021 and are due to continue this trajectory of growth in 2022. Speaking of 2022, we have big plans across 4 different areas: sales and customers, product, team, and fundraising, including hitting 1 million in sales and raising our seed round of funding. We are the experienced and passionate team cracking team health, and we're surrounding ourselves with the best experts in this space to succeed and create a breakout product. We hope you join us in empowering teams to own and act on their team health data. Remember, you are only as strong as your weakest team. Thank you.
All right, great presentation, Ines, and welcome to the stage. And for this round, Ashley, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Hi, Inez. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
I work for a company that is very big into wellness. That's the core of what we do. And my question to you is, after you collect the data around these teams, at that point, what's the next step after that? Do you have experts that then make recommendations on how to address the burnout or how to address certain issues, or are they already written into the system? Like how does that work?
Yeah, so once we actually get the data back, there's a way that they can actually debrief it using the platform. So the platform helps them debrief it, so they actually understand and create a common language around burnout. And then they actually are proposed a set of actions that they can take and personalize with a library that's based on what they actually entered. So we work on the operating model that we have basically 4 basic pillars of resilience that are the most important things to get right in order to attack burnout. And so you'll get slotted into one of these kind of learning journeys. And based on that, you'll be recommended actions that you can then prioritize and choose as a team. And then that action taking is supported through interactions, mini challenges, asynchronous coaching, similar to what Noom does, as well as like vocal reflections.
Very good. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Next question over to you, Kim.
Thank you, Inez. That was great. Mental health and well-being are just a hot topic, and they've always been, but especially over these last 2 years. How have you found the employers you're already working with? How receptive are they to the platform, and do you have any metrics yet on the average % of employees participating in the solution at this point?
Great question. So in terms of engagement, we've actually seen very, very high engagement. And I think a big part of that, most of the time we get close to 100% or 100% participation in the diagnostic. And a big part of that is because we use gamification to create accountability and almost like friendly competition within teams. So for instance, we'll tell people like, hey, 80% of your team has already completed this, would you like to do it too? And so it basically creates these self-reinforcing mechanisms for engagement. And that has helped us tremendously in terms of long-term and short-term engagement with the platform. In terms of like the impact and how it's resonated, I think the place that has resonated the most is actually having a path to action, as Ashley was saying. And we try to make it very simple around what we call building habits. So people can accumulate over time what we call like habit badges, so that they can actually over time say like, our team has developed these habits that we have and can come back to over time. And so that feels like an accomplishment and sense of mastery for the team, which I think is incredibly important in terms of bringing the team together and actually driving change.
Thank you.
Okay.
Of course.
And last question over to you, Tiffany.
Hi, Inez.
Hi, Tiffany.
My question is more around the initial data collection. Is it self-identification? I'm overworked, I'm burnt out, I have, a lot going on at home, so my priorities are split, or is this more of a hypothesis if then scenario? If you're feeling this, then you should do that, without any real identifying markers by person.
I'm not sure I fully understand the second version of it. Can you say a little bit more before I answer?
Sure. So I'll give you an example. At my organization, we do have a multitude of mental health platforms. You kind of pick one, which I think in itself is a little troubling because we should all be on the same
Fair
page.
enough.
But there's, other than putting in some basic information, like how many hours do you work a week on average, right? How much time do you spend meditating or doing self-care on average, or these large gaps, 5 to 10 hours a week, 10 to 20 hours a week. I don't know who's got time for that, et cetera. So is it more of a if you fall into this bucket, then you should do this model? Or is this a sit down, take a quiz, be honest with yourself, take a moment to really reflect on what's going on in your day to day, and you get an actual prescribed plan? Or is it more, hey, this team is overworked, or this team is feeling disengaged? I guess the question is, how individualized is it? When we're talking about a team, and is it granular enough that they're allowed to put in their own personal struggles, so that you don't feel like you're being lumped into a collective effort with methods that might not be appropriate for your personal challenges, and therefore you don't overcome what's important to you?
Totally. So first of all, apologies for my lighting. I don't know what's going on. So it's suddenly fading into the ether, but now I'm back. So I would say we need to strike a balance, right? So in terms of, there are pathways that we see are critical for teams to kind of accomplish in order to have a good basis for resilience and protection against burnout. And that comes back to this framework around the 4 pillars of resilience that we've seen over our research and external research to be the key areas to get right. Now, within that, we understand that there's a real need to personalize it both to the team and the individual. And so we do that through 2 ways. The first one is we actually allow the teams to actually craft their own actions, as well as, and on top of the library that we already have, so they can actually craft it collectively and vote on it if they would like to do that as well. So that's one way that we do it. The other way is actually through the asynchronous coaching, and they can actually help to personalize and adapt some of the things that we're already doing through the more programmatic approach, I would say. And that we found to be very important and very resonant. And so just like, I think a lot of companies like Headspace or Noom had seen huge increases in retention in their apps by using asynchronous coaching, I think we see something similar where it really helps to make this personal. And then the last thing I'll say is we actually do a breakdown by individual as well that's completely private. So like I can see within my team, like what my results are. And so I get my own kind of personalized approach too. We just don't support the action taking behind that because that's just not our area of strength. But we do offer those insights for those that want to go further at an individual level.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ines. And while the judges write down some notes, how can attendees find out more about Skylight?
Yeah. Excited for you guys to check us out. You can find us at skylight.com. Skylight spelled exactly like it's on my name here, SKYLYTE.com. You can find me by email, Inez@skylight.com, and we're also on LinkedIn. We would love to work with you and hear your questions and thoughts. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. Thank you very much for being here. All right. And believe it or not, that actually completes the round of pitches. So big hand to all of our competitors here. I'm going to be taking the judges now into a separate Zoom session where they are going to deliberate on the pitches you just saw. But while the deliberation is going on, we have some great information that we're going to be sharing with you. You can also visit the Knowledge Center virtual booth that we have available so that you can learn or get more information about this great benefit that you have as a SHRM member. So hang tight. We're going to be back shortly, probably in about 10 minutes or so. All right, judges, I will see you shortly. Thank you.
We are standing on the precipice of a new future. Never before have so many workplace challenges been present. But with each challenge comes opportunity. A chance to disrupt what was and create what will be. Now, more than ever, the time is now for HR to lead workplace innovation. And innovation is the key reason why SHRM launched the first ever Better Workplaces Challenge Cup. Earlier this year, we put out a call for workplace innovators solving the most pressing workplace challenges. Over 150 teams of entrepreneurs answered the call and competed in 17 local rounds that were co-hosted with SHRM chapters nationwide. Judge panels made up of SHRM volunteers selected the top 3 pitches from each local round to advance to the regional semifinals. The 5 regional winners competed in the finals event held at this year's annual conference.
Innovation, at the end of the day, is critical if we intend to reset, rethink, reimagine HR.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Damon John. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being in HR.
From all of these impressive presentations, only 2 innovators remain.
The 2 finalists will be Simba, and the next one is Compt.
And the winner of SHRM's 2021 and first ever Better Workplaces Challenge Cup is
Compt. Oh my God.
We work. That's what we do.
We get up and get at it because our work defines us.
What do I aspire to be?
This is my break, what I've been working so hard for.
I have big dreams for myself. I know what I want for my career and my family.
I want to know that what I do matters.
I want to be better than I was yesterday.
It's a small business, but my employees and their families rely on us to succeed.
Beyond our sense of self.
Our work is life.
It's entry level, but I'm going to prove I have something to offer.
This is my chance to build a career.
So close to that down payment.
These college fees are stacking up. Gotta ask for that raise.
I have to start putting more aside for retirement.
As HR professionals, we impact all of this.
What we do matters.
SHRM is an organization that represents some 300,000 HR professionals across the globe. But most importantly, we touch and affect, influence the lives of 100 million workers every day. You can't find a CEO today who is not talking about people and people issues.
And what we're for is safe and dignified workplaces for everyone.
Every profession.
Every day.
All around the world.
HR is there.
My work gives me confidence.
My work gives me hope. I can provide for my family.
My kids will have things I never had. I enjoy giving back to my community.
I have a sense of my own value.
I am finally an expert at something.
I want to instill a work ethic in my kids.
Take care of my folks.
I want to make a contribution to this world.
I love HR.
It's the most human profession.
My work gives me purpose. My role in HR gives me pride.
HR matters.
HR is an opportunity to change lives.
What kind of world
will you create?
In one of the most challenging years our businesses have ever witnessed, SHRM Research was there every step to answer your toughest workplace questions. This was possible because SHRM members like you provided real-time insights to our team of researchers. We wanted to take time to share some of our more surprising and noteworthy findings from this year.
COVID has had a devastating impact on businesses across the U.S., particularly small businesses, but many have proven resilient. SHRM research found that over 2 in 5 small businesses had started rethinking the way they do business, and a third had found a new way of delivering existing services due to COVID.
Over 1/3 of American workers reported that they don't feel comfortable discussing race at work. This perception differs along racial lines, with 45% of Black workers saying their workplace discourages discussions of racial injustice issues at work, compared to just 30% of white workers. Interestingly, 70% of HR professionals we interviewed said these discussions are okay at work. This is an opportunity for HR professionals and organizational leaders to guide employees to have thoughtful, civil, and respectful conversations about race and create workplaces where everyone feels included and can express their points of view.
Some of the benefits that employers adopted during COVID-19 might be here to stay. Over 2/3 of organizations, 68%, said they would probably or definitely adopt broader or more flexible work-from-home policies for all workers following the pandemic.
So much of this timely body of research wouldn't be possible without our members who share their everyday, lived experiences at work. By participating in future studies, you can continue to help SHRM answer the most pressing questions that impact work, workers, and workplaces across the globe. Together, we can achieve our mission to create better workplaces for a better world.
Now that she's a manager, she's wondering, exactly how do I manage? She'll acquire the skills and confidence she needs with PMQ from SHRM, a self-paced, interactive, and entertaining learning journey. In every binge-worthy episode, managers face challenges, see the impact of their decisions, and test their growing skills with gamified assessments. Perform well, and they can earn the PMQ. Better managers create better workplaces. Pre-order SHRM's new People Manager qualification now.
All right, and we are back. Welcome back, judges. Thank you so much for the deliberation, and I think we're ready to move forward and announce the two companies that are going to be moving forward to the semifinals. So once again, we had a great group of companies. I know that it was a hard decision for the three of you. As mentioned at the beginning, these two companies are going to be moving to the semifinals of the Better Workplaces Challenge Cup. So let's get right to it. The top two companies for this segment are Shamrock and Skylight. So major congratulations to Shamrock and Skylight, and we look forward to your participation in the semifinals. Judges, any words you'd like to say to the winners? Ashley, starting off with you.
Sure. Congratulations to both of you. It was a really tough deliberation for us. We went back and forth a little bit, and we think that both Shamrock and Skylight both addressed serious needs that we have out in the world as we navigate through HR. So congrats, and I wish you luck in the next round.
Kim?
Yes, ditto. I mean, it was a fun deliberation, and both solutions that you guys have brought forward are going to potentially have a tremendous impact on the workforces. And so we thank you for bringing these to us, and good luck in the semifinals.
All right. And last but not least, Tiffany, over to you.
Thank you. Congratulations to all of the participants. And I know whether making it to the next round here or not, you definitely have products that have a need in the workspace. Unfortunately, we could only pick two. Shamrock, love what you're doing. We definitely see a fit there. The talent pool needs you. And it's wonderful to see us doing that grassroots effort from even the high school level to make sure that the skill sets are there when they get there. And Skylight, we really loved that we're bringing mental health and awareness down to the team level, more accountability there, and more coaching and peer level mental health and help is I think what's needed, especially as Guillermo pointed out in the remote workforce. The lower we can bring that and more peer-to-peer, the better. So congratulations to both of you, and looking forward to seeing what you do in the next round.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, judges, and to the participants out there. It was a very tough competition. I can assure you of that. Thank you so much for participating. And to all of you out there, thank you so much for attending. Please note that, as we said at the beginning, this event qualifies for 2 PDCs towards your SHRM CP and SCP certification. And the code to use is 22-XE32D. And we will be sending this over to you by emails to make sure that you have it. And also, don't forget about the next round. The second first round segment is going to be next Tuesday, March 1st, where we're going to be picking another 2 companies that are going to be moving forward. And once again, the finals are going to be at the SHRM Annual Conference and Exposition, being held June 12th through the 15th in New Orleans, and we hope you are able to make it there. Also, please visit betterworkplaceschallengecup.com to stay informed and register to attend any of our future events. So we hope you can join us. And that's about it. Everyone have a great evening. To everyone out there, judges, thank you again, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.